Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Chahadash. I also want to give double honors to our elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and blessings, health and wellness to the house of David Delay. All right, today I want to go into a topic. Just going into furthermore how it was always about Israel, and one of the biggest lies and biggest misconceptions within the Christian world is that by the time we got into the New Testament, to the Gospels, to the arrival of Yahushua, it was no longer about the Israelites. That there was an exclusivity doctrine, right? But you go into the New Testament, and it reinforces that the salvation was only for the Israelites. As a matter of fact, it was Yahushua that said, salvation is for the Jews. All right? Salvation is for the Jews, man. All right? Furthermore, you go into, furthermore, you go into, what's that, Romans, the 9th chapter, where the Apostle Paul reiterates that Yahushua was for, well, he said, I wish that myself were accursed from Yahushua, all right, but he went on to say, for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites. You see? My brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites, man. All right, who obtained the adoption, the covenants. You see? The promise was never extended to the other nations, man. All right? Yahushua said, go not into the world of Gentiles. All right? But go into the scattered Israelites. And you have to remember that was something that took place between the Old Testament and the New Testament. And you had the book of Maccabees. All right? In the book of Maccabees, it goes into how the kingdom was translated from the Persians, eventually took over, right? And that was, so by the time you got to the New Testament, the Romans was over Jerusalem. And you would never know that. You would never know that unless you understood the history. All right, but Christians don't understand the history. And it was always about, all right, Jerusalem. It was all about the Israelites. Right? Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Right? Are they Hebrews? So am I. It was always about the Israelites. And even when it goes into the Grecians or the Greeks, all right, what is that really going into? All right, in the book of Acts, it's Acts the 6th chapter. All right, when it goes into the Greeks, all right, the apostles sending their apostleship to the Greeks, extending the ministry to the Greeks. All right, who are the Greeks? Those are Greek-speaking Jews. Acts the 2nd chapter. All right, around the 5th verse, scripture goes into what? The devout Jews. It goes into the devout Jews of all nations, because according to the law of Moses, 3 times a year you would go to Jerusalem. So even though you had scattered Israelites who at that point spoke Greek, right, they still came to the homeland, Jerusalem. All right, but the known language, the general language at that time was Greek. All right, that was the English of that time, Greek. You know, just like you have, because really that's where they get, I believe that's where they get Mecca from. The Ishmaelites, Muslims, they go to Mecca once a year, that great pilgrimage. But Deuteronomy the 8th chapter was at 8 chapter was it 16? It's a lot. But he says 3 times a year you go to Jerusalem. So that was our quote unquote Mecca. So even fast forward to the time of the apostleship, all right, you had scattered Israelites who spoke Greek who came to Jerusalem. But they were called, but you had scattered Israelites who were Hellenized, and they were called Gentiles. And to prove that point, you have 1 Corinthians, the 12th chapter. It said, know that you were Gentiles given to these dumb idols. It said, know that ye were Gentiles. So how can you used to be a so-called Chinese man? How can you used to be a so-called Caucasian man? You know? The water, brother. Deuteronomy 16 and 16. The water. You see? And this is the gist of the truth. This is the gist of the gospel. And this is the importance of the gospel and the importance of spiritually rebuilding the temple. Because part of building the temple, going back to Ezra, all right, this is the 4th chapter, that the Gentiles were not including in the building of the temple. The Gentiles were not included in the temple. The Gentiles were not included in the temple. So spiritually, the 3rd temple being rebuilt, which is the spiritual temple, the Gentiles are not included. You see? Yeah, brothers on top of it this morning. But the Gentiles are not included in the 3rd temple, which is this just truth, the house of David. All right? The scripture says that the Most High is going to raise up the tabernacle of David, raise up that dynasty of David. Because that's what the house is. The house is like the family of David. We are the family of David, man. I will raise up the house of David. But it's not a physical house. All right? It's a body. It's more. It's a dynasty. In certain translations, when the scriptures talk about the house of David, it says dynasty of David. You see? Might be NLT, you know. You see? But the point is, man, it was never about the other. And this is the one thing that we have. You have to understand. The Israelites, the so-called black man, the so-called Hispanic man, the so-called Native American man, especially the so-called Negro, has nothing. Anything that you built in America as a collective, Esau destroyed it. Esau made sure you didn't have anything. And it says the dog licked his swords. So the other nations, the heathen, come into your hood and they set up shops in which you don't make any money off of, man. We're about to get reestablished as a nation. But the one thing that we have is this full exclusivity of Yahweh Bahashim Shai's promises towards our forefather Abraham, and we being heirs of the promise. All right? You have guys like Vocab and Genesis that want to taint that, man. They want to taint that, man. This is the one thing that we have. We're the poor man inside of a slum village with a hidden gem under our pillow. And this truth and the beauty of it is that hidden gem. This is all that the poor man has. Is that in the next life, in the next world, in the next kingdom, we are going to be on top. Kingdoms aren't meant for everybody to equally live equally. Kingdoms are meant for one nation to be on top and they rule over the other nations. Okay? Then you niggas be obsessed with Esau wanting to make it. Don't you understand that the Edomite is a demon? We have a demon ruling the planet. Incarnated Satan is ruling the planet, man. All right, and you want a demon to make it. That's like you see Eve in a relationship where she'll date a so-called white man, but then he'll fucking butcher her up, man, because she was with a demon. But Christianity and that nigga woman upbringing is part of the reason why you'll grow up and date a so-called white man. Christianity in part was a part of that, man. You know? But a lot of you so-called, you black people, a lot of you colored people, you blacks, Y'all believe that the Edomite is the Most High. Just be real. A lot of you black people, you black soul people, you black spirited Israelite, you still believe that the Edomite man is your God. You believe that. And you don't want to live in a world where he's not on top. You know? You don't want to live in a world. Jake is under a spell. This Christianity was like MK Ultra. That was our MK Ultra. But not only was Christianity a demonic spell, all right, because it was an enchantment into Edomite supremacy. You know, so it's a gateway to Edomite supremacy. Because you go to certain countries where it's mostly Jake ruling, and it'll be a shock to your system. Like, man, it's nothing but Jake out here. Because Jake can't fathom a world where Esau isn't the middleman. He isn't the reaper. He isn't the go-to. He isn't the bankers. He isn't the job. You know what I mean? By default, you're most likely going to work for Esau. And you might say, man, you know, I own my own business. Like, nigga, you had to go get grants. Yeah, Jake, who were entrepreneurs during the time of slavery, but the bulk of Jake was in slavery. You're fucked up for even thinking that way. Like, what you say doesn't apply to me because I, as an individual, don't work for a so-called white man. You're in a white man's world. It's not about you as an individual. Your nation is losing. You know? If they never created food stamps, you would never worry about food stamps. If they never created jobs, you would never worry about a job, because it tells you in Sirach, the 38th chapter, that basically a nation, a city, consists of the farmer, all right, the blacksmith, the potter, you know, you have fishermen. I mean, it doesn't mention that in Sirach 38, but we know throughout our history, throughout our culture, all right, we had fishermen, okay? But we know that if there was never a food stamp, we wouldn't worry about food stamps. If there were never quote-unquote jobs, you would never worry about a job, because your craft comes from utilizing the earth's resources and turning it into a product. Agriculture, that's a job. Fishing is a job. Hunting is a job. And we know that we had farmers markets. We had the marketplace in the ancient world. All right? So even at a very, I hate to say primitive, a very general existence, we know how to survive. Humans, earthlings, people know how to survive without a damn Edomite. If there was never a Federal Reserve note, people would never be in debt. If there was never a credit card, we would never worry about a credit card. If there was never a dollar bill printed, a FRN printed, we would never worry, hustle and bustle for a dollar bill. Because, hey, like Leviticus, the 25th chapter, it breaks down systems of equity on how to live in the land without the damn heathen. How you rent out, you lease out property based off the year of Jubilee. Because every year you have harvest, and when you lease out property to an Israelite, you lease it out based off how many harvests you're gonna have up until the year of Jubilee. So if an Israelite wants to lease out the property that you have, and it's 12 more years into the year of Jubilee, then you basically charge him for 12 different seasons, or 12 different harvests. So like, not seasons, but harvests. So you basically charge him for 12 harvests. But if it's 30 years up until the year of Jubilee, then you charge him 30 years up until the year of Jubilee, which is like 30 harvests, man. You know? Can you dig it? So we have systems in the scriptures, and you niggas, you color people, y'all love saying that we don't follow the Old Testament no more. The Old Testament was more than about sacrificing goats, man. All right. All right. We had systems to sustain ourselves, man. And part of the system was the ceremonial laws. That was one of the facets of our society, of our nation. All right. Deuteronomy 28 chapter ultimately goes into losing your rights to exist as a nation. But I hope this was of edification. I enjoyed doing this lesson today. You know, just speaking on this particular topic, all about the milk, man. Those Bible basics, man. You know, that it was all about the Israelites. And we had been downtrodden from the different kingdoms that ruled prior to Yahweh coming to the scene. The Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Persians. Then you go into the Maccabees, the Greeks, the Romans. So by the time Yahweh was here, Jerusalem was under Roman provinces, man. It was under Roman dominion. They didn't just pop up out of nowhere. All right. But it was all about, man, getting these devils. We were oppressed by the devil, as it says in the scriptures. It was all about getting these devils from up off of us, man. But with that, I hope this was edification. Till the next time, shalom.